the management, the students, and of course, esteemed speakers. It's a pleasure to be here. I will start by, given that this TEDx is for the students, so I'll try to make it a little less intellectual and more practical, so that it is for them. It's important for to be able to relate to it and see how they can use in their careers and their lives going forward. Power essentially means your ability to influence people around you, immediate vicinity, or especially also the people who don't know you or don't see you. That ability to influence can come two ways, as somebody said. Your starting from your family, your parents exercise, or rather, especially your father, maybe exercises power over you by being your father. And while you grow up, you are a little scared of him. Then you go closer to him as you grow and he grows. You understand each other better. Then you are influenced by him. I think for all of us, our role models are our parents. And that's an influence. That's the first experience of influence you have, which is soft power, comes from your family and your parents. There might be somebody in the family whom you are really inspired by. Somebody who would have done well professionally, somebody has very good value systems. So that's how essentially you get exposed to soft power very early on. But we don't think it in that terms because we generally family things are taken for granted. But the first exposure which we all get in our lives to soft power is at our homes, in our families. I would request all of you to think about in your life so far. I think the biggest exposure you would have is your family, your friends, and of course now you have colleagues and fellow students, and maybe your teachers. Ideally, all of you will have at least one person or two people who would have influenced you. And that essentially, in my thought and process, is what stays with you for your life. All of us would have been inspired when we were young by someone and who essentially shaped the way we look at world, the way we think, and also what career we choose, what we end up doing. For me, very early on in my life, given that it was mentioned that it is best to explain through your own life story, because that's most genuine and impactful. So I'll give a little bit background about my story so far. I come from a very small village in the state called UP. It's around 50 kilometers from Lucknow. And I grew up in that small village. My initial education also was in the village only, which did not have a school. So school was almost like an informal arrangement where teacher used to come and somebody had kind of allowed us to use one of their rooms for the classes. Till the time teacher came, because teacher came after finishing his agriculture chores. Actually, for whatever reason, I was given the responsibility by the teacher to run the class. That was, I don't know, it was good for me. I don't know about the students whom I was trying to do it. And I was very influenced by the teacher because he's a nice person. He was, I mean, teaching was his job, but actually teaching alone would have not helped him with his financial needs. So he was doing agriculture at home and he used to come around 11 o'clock. So 9 to 11 was my classes. And every time I'll ask him, so kal kya padhana hai? He said, whatever you want. And it was a tough one because whatever you want is very difficult. Somebody can tell you, theek hai. Of course, we are doing Hindi. So Hindi mein bolte hain, these pahada is like when you have the, tables. Or maybe kakha kakha, which is what we used to do. It's a very early age. But you have to figure out every day. And I was wondering, what do I say every day to these students? Then I asked my grandmother. I said, every day I go to school and every day I can't be doing same do ki do dunna char. Something else has to be done. She said, theek hai. So every day she'll tell me a story. The story will be either Ramayana, Mahabharata, or something else. And I said, okay, this is a good idea. And everybody, of course, then the students are very happy also because they don't have to study. They're only listening story. So these are the first influences which really, and what you hear in Ramayana and Mahabharata as a child, it's just a story. But there's a lot of morality and the value system which is embedded in these stories. And I think my early uh, desire to influence my surrounding came from there. And I think from that point of view, my grandmother would have had the maximum influence in shaping, and my mother, of course. My mother's focus was mostly making sure that I don't only tell stories, I also study. But I think the biggest influence was from my grandmother, who taught me those stories. And those stories essentially, I started relating to it. Certain characters, I was very influenced. I was influenced by a character of Arjuna. Very confused fellow. You know, very, very powerful, very capable, but very confused. Because he can go and kill somebody, but he's like, am I killing someone whom I should be killing? Is my family? He is my uncle. But then there was Mr. Cunning, who was Lord Krishna. Correct? And I really, very early on, my understanding of these two characters, I think these are two principal characters for me in the Mahabharata. For me, these two characters represented two aspects of life. Of course, this was not when I was 8 years or 10 years. This, of course, latter part of life, I have realized this. These two characters, one is Karmveer, Karm Pradhan, the person who believes in acting and activity. The other person, because when you act, you'll always do things which are not necessarily in the best interest of everybody around you. How do you know what is right, what is wrong? And from that perspective, I think the character of Krishna, I don't know whether these great men actually existed, whether they existed or not. The construct and the character of theirs is a really great life lesson. And the reason I'm telling you this, because most of us can relate to these stories, because these have been part of our growing up. I will like all of you to look these things from the perspective of what it gives us as a life lesson. So for me, Arjuna was my self, in the sense, my active self, which propels me to act. But then Krishna is my moral compass, which tells me what is right or wrong. And if you have both of these well balanced in your mind and in your personality, I think usually you will have a soft power. Because a person who does not act and you keep giving gyan, nobody is going to listen to you, frankly speaking. Because a lot of people are, they are in, most of the time I have read motivational speaker. I really don't understand how can you be a motivational speaker unless you have done something which is motivating. Correct? So unless you have done something which motivates people, then you can talk about it, then become a motivational speaker. From that perspective, without doing, you are nobody. So make sure that you don't confuse that if I can talk well, I can get things done in life. It will never happen. You have to work very hard. But having worked hard and not knowing what is right and wrong, you are going to create problems for yourself and for the society. So that's where the role of Krishna comes in, to tell you what is right and what is wrong. Sometimes, obviously, it may feel like what Krishna said, to go and kill everybody. Is it right or wrong? But it's not killing everybody. It is almost killing the demons within you. That's what exactly the way the role of Kaurava is depicted is essentially what is bad in all of us. We all of us good and bad in us. The whole essence of this epic is that let good prevail and conquer your demons, conquer your devils. And we all have those. And if these are the basic principles, if you follow in life, I think you will exert huge influence on people around you and society, as well as the nation and the global impact. This was a little bit more classical context so that you understand, because this is not something which me, R.K. Misra, is telling. This has been told and explained thousands of years ago, if it actually existed. Even if it did not exist, whosoever wrote that epic Mahabharata was very wise to tell this value-based society system through such a wonderful storytelling. So for me, Mahabharata is real in the context of what it says. Whether people existed, very good. Did not exist, doesn't matter. Now coming to of course, Mahabharata was Mahabharata. Now in Bharat, what is happening? So let me give you Mahabharata to Bharat. I, of course, a little bit, again, I have to relate it to my journey. So from near that village near Lucknow, I went to the nearest by town, which is a Tehsil town. Tehsil is less than Taluka in Karnataka. And I don't know, whatever, by luck or whatever happened, I ended up going to IIT Kanpur. And that was almost like a flip switch, in 0-1 switch. So from life, from 0, it became 1. Because once you entered IIT, a lot of things open for you. Then I ended up going to Japan, had my master's there. Then I went to Harvard, I did a lot of stuff. Came back to India in 95 when nobody was coming back, with huge desire to make an impact in this country. Actually, I was running a company in Japan. And when I sold that company, it was almost at the peak. And all my friends said that you are stupid, you are going back to India because nothing will happen. And I was very inspired by reforms by Mr. Manmohan Singh. He came to power in 91. And I said, oh, that's my ticket to go back to India. I really wanted to come back. But then 95, when I chose to come back, and I decided and sold my company in Tokyo and came, but next year he lost the election. And all my friends told me, and most of them were in US. I told you, India is not going to change. You made a stupid mistake of going there. See, one man tried to reform India and he's also lost the election. There's no hope. And after that, there was a coalition government. It was like India's worst time was after that. We did not have a stable government for next at least 7 to 8 years. But then I had made a decision and I came to India to become an entrepreneur. I made and sold 2-3 companies and retired at 40. Anyway, I just told in 30 seconds. It was a long journey and very tough journey. But what happened is by 40 when I decided to retire when I was 33. That I'll retire at 40. And I'll do something where I don't make money for myself, but do something for country and society. I didn't know whether I'll make money by 40, but decision to retire at 40 was made in my mind when I was 33. I managed to make money as well, and I retired at 40. And since then, I have not worked to actually go to office every day and make money. I do make money, even now. I do make money by investments and things like that, but I don't work in office. I have devoted my time to the working with the government, both state and central, and international organizations, where I focus on technology, impact of technology on geopolitics and environment. So these are my areas. In the Indian context, I work on rural livelihood. So I do a lot of work on rural areas in UP. How I got suddenly, for example, here, Nitin will tell me, RK, road bada garbad hai, isko kuch kara do. I tell him, yeah, this is your area, your domain. You have such a fantastic facility here. You have such big institution. You should have influence. I'll tell you how my influence started. I came and started living in a community in Whitefield called Palm Meadows. Beautiful community. You go inside the community, it looks like you're in Australia or US. Outside, it was Ramgudanhalli. And there was no road from Marthahalli to Ramgudanhalli. And Marthahalli bridge, only one truck could pass at one time. This I'm talking about when I moved there in 2002. And by the way, Palm Meadows actually brought IT revolution of India, let me tell you this. Because Palm Meadows was a community where every Indian and foreigner potentially, when companies wanted to move him there, whether it was Intel or Cisco, they showed him Palm Meadows. He said, oh, looks like California, I can live here. Without realizing that once you get out of California, outside is very different, India. The road was disaster. And most of us in the evenings, I'm sorry, nobody minds when we talk about drinks, we'll have our single malts and we'll chit chat and everybody will only crib. Oh, California was so great and India is so bad, this, that and all that. I really used to wonder why the hell everybody is only cribbing, not doing anything. But then I said, okay, let me go. So me and a friend of mine, who was still a neighbor, ended up going to BDA. BDA commissioner made us wait. We took the token, waited for almost hour and a half. In 30 seconds, he threw us out. He said, no, it's not my road. It's not BDA road. It's a PWD road. Go to PWD. Went to PWD, met the ACS. He said, RK, this is a small road going to a village. We don't have money. We only make from here to Gulbarga. PWD is not bothered about it. I said, somehow I got so frustrated. I said, how about if I pay for it? He said, how can you pay for the government road? I said, why not? I mean, everybody should be, no, government can't take money from people. There's no law. I said, make the law. He said, this is first time I've heard somebody telling I'm giving the money and you create the law. So you have to dare, because I really wanted things to happen and I had no idea from where the money will come, how much money will come. Anyway, it was the first public-private partnership project of Karnataka. After that, the law was made. We made the road. It was 11 crore project. I arranged 5.5 crores. It started from Martharli, and the excuse was given that Sai Baba Ashram is there. To help the devotees, this road should be made. That was the excuse which government, to help people, the road should be made, was not good enough. Correct? Anyway, in the name of God, it was done. Sai Baba God. No, that's okay for me, as long as I said, the good has to be achieved. It was done. But then what happened? Suddenly that was picked up by media. Oh, here is this guy who landed up from Tokyo. Of course, I was very famous before that also, because I was criticizing government a lot in Times of India and everywhere else. So everybody knew. But then they realized this guy just only doesn't criticize, he also acts. And then I started getting traction with the government. Because the first time it happened, many state governments said, how can we do in our states, this, that, and all that. And then I became influencer. That's where the soft power came. And that's why I started. This was in 2002. Now 20 years I've been working with the government. Here in Karnataka, several state governments. I have written India's smart city mission, a smart city policy, electric vehicle policy, electrical reforms in Rajasthan, livelihood opportunities in UP. I am part of Track to Diplomacy on geopolitics. I just came back from G20 curtain raiser in Delhi. So to me, it has become a life mission to, if I can do something. When Nitin called me, actually I came very late at night. I'm still jet lagged. I slept at 3 in the night because could not sleep. I'm still US time. And I got up at 8, wanted to go to gym, but body didn't allow. But I thought it is important to come here and talk to you guys. And that's why I had accepted. And I'm very happy I came. And this was a little life story I told. The lesson and moral of the story is, you want to do something, don't wait for others to do it. If you do it well, you don't have to go and tell people that you are great. You don't have to go and tell people I'm the influencer. You will be recognized and you will be essentially having the power over others. And the power you don't have to tell. They will feel your influence and they will reach out to you for help. The day people start calling you, yaar, can you help me with this? That essentially shows that you already have a soft power. Because the biggest gift God has given you is your ability to help others. But if you have the capability to help others, you have the soft power. Correct? It is inherent in all of us. But you have to work on it to be developing that capability. And this could be as simple as that you might be the most helping student in your class. Because not everybody endowed with the same IQ, same intelligence and everything else. Maybe somebody needs help. Be kind and nice to your fellow student. Or as you grow, be a better boss, be a better colleague, be a better husband, be a better father, be a better leader. And that's, to me, is soft power and whatever way you can influence people. Thank you.